Greetings and blessings, YouTube. This is John the Jansenist, and this evening I wanted to do a little talk about the issue of heresy, and more specifically the prevalent issue of atheism, which no doubt is familiar to anyone and everyone viewing this video. Now, my policy both on this channel and on my main channel, whenever the issue of religion comes up, that being the Hell's Unicorn channel, is to not engage in debate with an atheist at all. I basically have what is the equivalent of a zero-tolerance policy, and that is because, in my experience, discussions with such people that begin with a declaration of an opinion affirming a complete denial of religion is futile and fruitless. Nothing can be gained from the conversation, hence I preempt the conversation by cutting it off at the very beginning. Now, there are many others on YouTube, Christian bloggers in particular, who take a very different view and view it as their personal mission to convert the atheist or to alert the atheist of the fact that they are heading towards perdition. Now, my issue with this approach is, what does the Bible say about this? What does Scripture tell us about dealing with people that are steadfast in their opinion that the Bible is either untrue or they are steadfast in the more orthodoxly heretical opinion that some of the Bible is true but other parts of it are false, and this of course being based on their own personal subjective interpretation. To this, I am going to, first I'm going to establish the definition of a heretic for anyone who is not familiar with it, and to do this I will post the definition of the word heresy. And here it is. Heresy reads, an opinion or a doctrine at variance with established religious beliefs, and it says specifically dissension from or denial of Roman Catholic dogma by a professed believer or baptized church member. Now, the second half of this definition is not as important as the first half, since naturally not everybody is a Roman Catholic, and the Roman Catholic itself has brought itself into heresy against the Bible on several specific counts, of which I'm not going to get into in this video, but suffice to say, I'm not in communion with Rome. I do accept certain things as valid within their faith, but there are other things, other specific issues of which I am not in agreement with them on, and I am most certain of the Bible is not agreement with them on either. But just chew on the first half of this definition, an opinion or a doctrine at variance with established religious beliefs. This applies to anyone and everyone who holds a viewpoint contrary to the complete and whole content of Scripture. Any dissenting opinion, be it small or large, from the soft 4 points Arminian to the full-blown outright atheist, as a denier of some or all of the established doctrine contained with Scripture, can be put into this category. So in other words, we should take the same approach with regards to atheists that we would with any other dissenting opinion from Orthodox Christianity, be it Islam or Buddhism or any other belief system. Now, the passage within Scripture that I am going to turn to now is in the third chapter of the book of Titus. That's one of the epistles that appears in the New Testament. And I'm going to focus specifically on verses 9 through 11. But avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. A man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject, knowing that he that is such is subverted and sinneth, being condemned of himself. Now, the important thing to focus here on is the verse 9 in particular, avoid foolish questions, genealogies, contentions, and strivings about the law. Now, these are specifically focusing on the particular controversies of the time. Questions about, for instance, what was Christ's genealogy, or what is my genealogy, because I am of the genealogy of the Jews. My salvation is assured despite what the Gospels say, or contentions. This would be anything contained within the Gospels that people had a hard time believing. Strivings about the law. This has to do with the issue of law versus grace. Does law come before grace, as the Pelagians would later assert, or does law come after grace, which is the Orthodox position, and so forth. Now, these can be treated as just a general paradigm of what to focus on, but I specifically want to focus on the first part of this: foolish questions. Now, this can be expanded to include anything that is by nature nonsensical, and any diversion whatsoever from the principal point of the argument can be considered a foolish question. When an atheist, for instance, makes the point, well, I do not believe in magic, and therefore I do not believe in miracles. Why do you believe in magic? Well, the atheist makes a couple of mistakes here. First off, he has conflated two different terms with two very different definitions as being one and the same, being synonymous. One, miracles, which denotes a activity that is that appears to be in contrary with natural law, being performed by a supernatural agent or a spiritual agent. That is the definition of a miracle. Look it up in the dictionary if you doubt this. The other definition pertaining to magic is human attempts at manipulating nature through appeal to the supernatural, or through appeal to the dead, deceased spiritual beings. This is what we would refer to as necromancy also. Two very different things. Miracles denotes an intervention by a supernatural presence or being. Magic refers to human attempts at intervening or basically manipulating such supernatural forces. So this can be viewed as a nonsensical argument, and this is an argument that comes up constantly in discussions with atheists. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard an atheist assert, I don't believe in Santa Claus, I don't believe in the Easter Bunny, I don't believe in the Tooth Fairy, I don't believe in pink invisible unicorns or invisible pink elephants, or all of this other nonsense. Let me ask all of you, what is the profit in even entertaining these arguments? What is the profit in even stating the obvious and saying this is ridiculous and it has nothing to do with whether or not God exists? There is no profit in it. Try and explain this to them, and they will assert again and again, well, why is it not the same? Why are they not synonymous? I mean, I can't see pink unicorns and I can't see God. Well, I would assert in that particular case, well, it depends on how you're looking at it. I mean, you can't see atoms with your own eyes. You have to have a specific device in order to see it, and faith is the device by which we can come to a certain knowledge of God. It is the equivalent of essentially peering in and seeing a world that is different from the one that we can see with our eyes alone. That's an analogy. It's not a perfect and complete comparison. No analogy is, but that would be the argument that I would make. And even that argument would fall on deaf ears with the atheist. So at that point, I would simply move to verse 10. A man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition reject. When you have made an appeal to rational argument from the standpoint of Scripture twice, and you have simply been laughed off or you've been loaded up with more nonsense by your opponent, stop the debate. Now, I take a different approach. I stop the debate on the first admonition because I can pretty well tell that the second admonition is a lost cause. Maybe some of you might be saying that I'm putting a hedgerow before the hedgerow, but that's particularly the way that I tend to deal with these people whenever the discussion comes up. And usually that involves deleting comments and blocking people when they are diligent in their attempts to be disruptive. And some people view this as censorship, to which I will say in return, this is a debate by and for Christians. And it is not profitable to have the comment section loaded up with nonsense that contributes nothing to the debate. This is why I block atheists. This is why most of the more popular Christian bloggers on YouTube block atheists, because they don't want their comment sections loaded up with rubbish. Nobody reads the comments when there's nothing but rubbish. If there is one little pearl of wisdom tucked underneath all that garbage, the likelihood of anybody being able to read it is greatly diminished. So, by all means, pre-approve your comments, delete stuff, sift through all of the nonsense, and simply keep the actual arguments. Now, the next question that one might ask is it possible for an atheist to make an actual rational argument against Scripture? The answer obviously is yes. Now, how often does this happen? Not very often. A friend of mine, another blogger on here who is a theist but not necessarily a Christian, by the name of Dr. Dissent, says that in his time on YouTube he has encountered 2 atheists out of likely several hundreds that he's interacted with that presented anything resembling a rational argument in favor of their viewpoints. Now, if such arguments were to come up, then they can be entertained. But again, I stress verse 10, a man that is a heretic after the first and second admonition, reject. Now, it could be that later that person may come back and he has changed his outlook. He might be more open to what you're saying. At that point, you may treat him differently. But if he's always coming back with the same arguments, there's no point in engaging in an infinite regression of circular reasoning. Simply cut off the discussion, say, have a nice day, I have other people I want to talk to. And that's pretty much the point that I wanted to get across with this particular blog. So until next time, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, God be with you.